Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Late Saturday night, the USC commitment sweatshirt. He comes back on as five-star front seven defender Xavier Griffin, committing to USC in the 2026 class. A fascinating prospect that, 24/7 Sports has him listed as a linebacker. I have a very good feeling that he's going to be an edge rusher for USC once he gets within this USC program. And I think USC certainly agrees with that evaluation. I think the lead recruiter on Xavier Griffin was Coach Henney. I think that makes a ton of sense for USC. And you dive into Xavier Griffin, it's almost impossible not to want this kid rushing the passer at the collegiate level. I get it. 6'4", 210, needs to add a little bit more weight to the frame. He's only going into his junior year of high school. This is a kid with exceptional juice off the line of scrimmage. You turn on the film, offensive tackles just cannot deal with the twitch and athleticism that Xavier Griffin has. I think this can be a premier pass rusher for this USC program. I'm fired up to get into the film, talk a little bit about what USC is doing on the recruiting trail. Before we get into it, as always, just want to say thank you to you guys and to the USC fans, the amount of support you guys continue to show the boys. I say it every time. It truly does mean the world. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. All the fight odds you guys drop in the comment section. It's absolutely awesome. Appreciate you guys. And without further ado, let's get into Xavier Griffin. I think the first thing we have to address, he's a 2026er. He's from the state of Georgia. USC just landed 2 commitments from the state of Georgia that ended up decommitting and flipping their commitments. I get the pessimism, if you will, from the USC fan base. I have 2 things to say. One, you'd rather have these commitments than not have the commitments. And I know Lincoln Riley, full well taking this commitment, understands that Georgia and Alabama and Auburn, they are going to be threats to Xavier Griffin throughout the next couple of months and years. That being said, you'd rather start having the commitment than not having the commitment. I think secondly, and more importantly, you look at USC, if this defense turns around like a lot of us think it will in the 2024 season, it's going to get a lot easier to hold on to these commitments on the defensive side of the football. It's hard to blame guys like Justice Terry for flipping and decommitting, because right now what you've seen from USC over the last couple of years on the defensive side of the football, it hasn't been great in terms of player development and execution on the football field. Danton Lynn, Coach Henney, Doug Belk, Matt Entz coming in, once they prove that this USC defense is fundamentally different and you can come to USC as a guy that is going to get better and get put out into the NFL, that narrative around keeping these guys committed to USC, I think is going to get a lot easier once this coaching staff, kind of digs their teeth into what they're doing on the defensive side of the football. Now, getting into Xavier Griffin, I want to stop talking and start just diving into this film. This film is an absolute blast to watch. Again, this is a kid that you'll see him get some reps as an off-ball linebacker. And heck, if he plays off-ball linebacker for USC, you're getting an all-conference off-ball linebacker. This is a kid that's going to be very, very good at whatever position he plays. I just look at the edge rusher spot and say it's the most important position on the defensive side of the football. You want your premier athletes getting after the passer. Xavier Griffin is a premier athlete, and he shows a high ability to get after the passer. You fire up the film. One, his ability to win on the outside shoulder, the get off, the twitch off the line of scrimmage, it's kind of next level. You just see the get off and then the ability to be flexible and attack the outside shoulder and go close the distance on the quarterback. This kid plays with just a different level of get off the line of scrimmage. Love this rep right here where you're showing a little flexibility in the hips and ankles and bending. Once you have this juice, we know he has the juice off the line of scrimmage. He is the first one off the line pretty much every single rep we're going to see. But then you see the ability to run that arc and squeeze down and be flexible in the hips and ankles and go get the quarterback. That's kind of what separates just really good athletes from really good pass rushers. And Xavier Griffin certainly has that. Getting a little rep at the off-ball linebacker spot. Again, this kid would be a great off-ball linebacker, might be a good off-ball linebacker. The ability to pick through traffic and then have the closing speed that he has. He's an edge rusher guy that just runs like a linebacker, runs like a safety. Talk about sideline to sideline speed, picking through traffic. It's such a high level for Xavier Griffin. You continue to work through the film and you continue to just see him dominate in different ways. You see the inside move here. Hey, we won a bunch attacking the outside shoulder. Offensive tackles now need to respect what you can do attacking the outside shoulder. We're going to cross the face. We're going to win inside. Again, I mean, just the movement. He's like a cat. I mean, these tackles don't have a chance at dealing with what Xavier Griffin brings from an athletic standpoint to this USC program. You continue to roll through the film. You continue to see just different ways that this kid, I mean, I love this. I would love to see if USC plays him as an off-ball linebacker, walk him into the box, use him in a lot of different ways, because I think that's when he's at his best. You roll this film right here, I mean, just shooting the gap and just kind of going from the play side, obviously making a play, getting the ball out. But, I mean, coming from the backside gap here and just closing the distance just so quickly between himself and the ball carrier, it's kind of another level. I think this is a kid that you just want to bet on and just figure out what you're going to do with them at the next level. Can do a lot of different things. Love what he can do in terms of block disengagement too. I think that's your biggest question mark about Xavier Griffin playing along the line of scrimmage. Is he big enough? Is he physical enough to be a guy that can help and run support at the Big Ten level? Gets off blocks exceptionally well. Has some pretty good pop in the hands, but then again, we're going to shed blocks. We're going to run the line of scrimmage. It is impossible to get leverage and get outside of a guy like Xavier Griffin, because quite frankly, he runs a lot faster than a lot of running backs who are trying to get outside his outside shoulder. I think that's what makes Xavier Griffin special. And you take a look at 2026. I mean, if you're a USC fan, again, I think it's going to get easier to keep these kids within this USC program once the coaching staff shows that USC is going to be a different animal on the defensive side of the football. So again, I can understand the skepticism of USC fans in terms of, all right, we grabbed the 5-star edge rusher from the state of Georgia. Look, we know Kirby Smart's not going to give up on him. We know Kirby Smart's going to put in work to try to flip Xavier Griffin. One, we'd rather have the commitment now, but more importantly, I just think it's going to get easier to hold on to that commitment, because I think this USC coaching staff is going to show that they're a real coaching staff as opposed to what we saw the last 2 years for USC. Massive news for USC fans. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.